everyone, welcome to today's session on do's and don'ts for prelims as it is approaching, and there are some good practices and bad practices which, if kept in mind during these last few days, can really help you and make or break your exam. So let us start with these. Okay. So this is the most important, and that is why it's number one on our list also over here, that you have to stick to your basics during your prelims last 2 months, 1 month का prep. In fact पहले भी जो भी आपने books choose करें, जैसे of course आपने लक्ष्मीकांत choose किया होगा या फिर जो भी आपने choose करा है, स्पेक्ट्रम पढ़ते हैं या फिर आप जो भी आपका इकोनॉमिक्स का है, जो भी आर्ट एंड कल्चर की बुक आपने choose करी थी in the beginning and आपने पढ़ लिया है एक बार and आपने उससे notes बना लिए हैं, it is always better that you stick to those basics. जितनी बार you revise it, the more you retain, the more you attempt from these books, जितने भी answers आप इस book से recall करते हैं, उतना answers you will remember and उतना you will be able to reproduce in your prelims. So this is very, very important. Don't spread yourself out too thin. Stick to your basics. And the next is that I was for static. Now this is for current affairs. So current affairs mein what happens is that everybody follows some monthly magazine, whatever you prefer, or your newspaper compilation. Now that you've studied for Jan, Feb, aage, and now you're revising, please stick to the magazine that you have already referred to. Uska koi yearly compilation aata hoga, तो वो पढ़ लें, या फिर आपने कुछ notes बनाए होंगे अपने monthlies के, you can refer to that as well. But please do not use multiple sources for current affairs also, because बहुत vast syllabus है. Again, spreading yourself out too thin won't help you too much. So just revise the yearly magazine जो आपने पहले monthly में refer किया होगा. Now coming to the subject priority. Now this can be different for everybody. First of all, you might be comfortable with certain subjects, you might not be too comfortable with other subjects, but it is very important that you recognize your strengths and you recognize your weaknesses. For example, for me, I feel that polity and economy can be very high scoring क्योंकि इनसे usually binary questions आते हैं कि पॉलिटी में भी मोस्टली लक्ष्मीकांत आप करेंगे तो 80% कवर हो जाएगा. इकोनॉमी, इफ़ योर फंडामेंटल्स आर क्लियर कि रेपो रेट क्या होता है, फॉर एग्जांपल उसको बढ़ाने से क्या होता है, उसको कम करने से क्या होता है, फॉरेक्स रिजर्व्स में क्या क्या होता है, इसमें देयर इज़ वेरी लेस चांस दैट यू गो रॉन्ग. एंड यूपीएससी एग्जाम इज बिकमिंग मोर अनप्रिडिक्टेबल ईयर बाय ईयर. सो दीज आर सर्टन सेफ टॉपिक्स दैट यू कैन बैंक ऑन. सो यू हैव टू बी श्योर दैट यू डोंट मिस आउट क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम द टॉपिक्स दैट यू फाइंड ईजी, कि लो रिस्क क्वेश्चंस गलत नहीं करने हैं. तो उस हिसाब से, नाउ दिस इज अगेन सब्जेक्टिव, बट यूजुअली पॉलिटी, इकोनॉमी वेरी हाई रिटर्न्स, एनवायरनमेंट स्पेशली इकोलॉजी वेरी हाई रिटर्न्स क्योंकि उसमें आपसे यूजुअली बेसिक साइंस क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं. साइंस एंड टेक स्पेशली फॉर पीपल हु हैव अ साइंस बैकग्राउंड. देन मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री, ऑफ कोर्स मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री सब लोग काफ़ी अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं. स्पेक्ट्रम यूजुअली सब लोग अच्छे से पढ़ते हैं, तो ये भी काफ़ी हाई स्कोरिंग हो सकता है. इसमें बस वही है कि समटाइम्स दे आस्क यू टिडबिट्स फ्रॉम सम रैंडम प्लेस दैट यू डोंट नो, दैट्स ओके, बट दैट स्टिल मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री ऑल्सो कैन बी क्वाइट स्कोरिंग. इसके नीचे जो हैं आर्ट एंड कल्चर, जोग्राफी, एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री, मेडिवल हिस्ट्री, दीज कैन बी अ लिटिल बिट ट्रिकी. सो जस्ट यूज़ वन सोर्स फॉर ईच, कि आपने आर्ट एंड कल्चर एक अच्छी जगह से पढ़ लिया, आपने जोग्राफी एक अच्छी जगह से पढ़ लिया, एंशिएंट हिस्ट्री, मेडिवल हिस्ट्री सब कुछ एक अच्छी जगह से पढ़ लिया, 3 बार रिवाइज कर लिया, more than enough. Now if you start reading more sources on these, तो इसका returns थोड़ा कम है, because they can ask you anything out of anywhere and it's not your fault if you don't know that. So that is fine. There is margin for you to leave these questions. Again, this order is as per your own strengths and weaknesses. This is the general thing. Geography में, but I would like to point out that mapping is easier. So mapping you should focus on. Mapping, try to get everything sorted in your head. India map, world map, physical, political. That is high scoring. Otherwise, geography, you can just refer to 1 or 2 basic sources and just keep your basics strong. So prioritize. This is the time that you know what you are good at and you capitalize on that and you try to cover up your weaknesses also. Now coming to CSAT. CSAT has been tricky for a lot of people because there are a lot of questions. It covers maths, it covers English, and not a lot of time. So what happens with CSAT is that it gets neglected a lot of time. A lot of time people don't focus on CSAT and then try to do it in the end. Doing it in the end will just increase pressure on you. You will feel like you're not doing well enough, you're not doing good enough, or maybe you won't feel as confident as you would have. So if coming to CSAT, it is very important that you practice 1 hour daily. Just pick up one thing. You either pick up logical reasoning, or you pick up, for example, something like time or percentage or profit and loss, speed, and you practice. And you do all your math khud se, without a calculator, without a mobile phone. Do it khud se, revise your tables, squares, cubes, all of those, revise your tricks, hacks, revise your ABCD, whatever you've learned in CSAT throughout the year, keep revising it. If you've not done it so far, that's also fine. You can start now. You can refer to the basics, you can refer to the concept behind CSAT, and just practice, especially for math. When it comes to English, the more you practice, the faster your reading speed will be, and the faster you will be able to solve the English questions without compromising on your math questions. So daily 1 hour CSAT is essential because we don't want to lose out on a qualifying paper. So this is very important. Don't neglect this. Revise. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of preparation has already been done. You know that whatever is in your books or your notes, you have already read it once. Reading it once has taken up your time, it has taken up your mehnat, so we don't want that to go to waste. So the only way it won't go to waste if you read it once and then you read it twice and thrice and 4 times, jitne times bhi you can, of course meaningfully jitne bhi times you can. So if you've done 1 iteration, try to do another. If you've done second, try to do third. Don't waste your time, but jitna bhi aap cheezon ko retain karenge, recall karenge, you will train your brain to work naturally. So that when you see a question, ye maine yahan padha tha, this connects to this, even if you don't know the answer exactly, you will be able to find some connect and you will be able to do some smart work and crack that question. So that is why revision is very important, retention is very important, and recall is the most important thing. So revise. That's the golden rule. So as I was talking about mapping for 20 minutes per day. So what I did in my first attempt is that I just started mapping after completing everything, and I just used to open the big map, world map or India map, and I tried to do all the mapping in one day, but your brain doesn't absorb information like that. So your brain will start juggling things around because you don't give it time to settle things in, especially when you're talking about mapping, which involves spatial memory. So it is always better that you map 20 minutes per day, 30 minutes, 15 minutes if you don't find the time. But please do map. There are a lot of questions that come out of this, especially areas which are in news, which countries around this particular sea, which country around this particular region, some features, physical features, mountains, rivers are very important, and these are actually easy questions to crack if all of this is settled in your brain. तो आप आराम से बना करके रफ में थोड़ा बहुत नहीं भी याद आ रहा है ना, then also you can use the options and you can work around mapping questions. So and of course this will also help you when you give your mains. कि आपको maps दिमाग में अगर इतने अच्छे से याद हैं, so whenever you're writing GS1, you can draw maps very easily and very quickly. So this has a lot of returns. I highly recommend practicing mapping for 20-30 minutes per day. Now, after doing all of these studies and revising and everything else, we want to give mock tests. We want to give mock tests, we want to analyze, and we want to revise. So how do we do that? How many mock tests to give, for example? So there is no magic number, of course. What I do myself and what I recommend is that you give sectional tests. You've completed some portion of the syllabus and you're confident about it, then you can just give a sectional test uska, see how you've done, कौन से areas are अच्छे जा रहे हैं, कौन से areas अच्छे नहीं जा रहे हैं, course correct according to that. एनालिसिस जब आप करें अपने मॉक टेस्ट की, आपने प्लीज़ राइट विद इन द टाइम लिमिट, प्रीलिम्स में भी, बिकॉज when you're writing it at home or you're writing it in a coaching, तब pressure feel नहीं होता, so you feel like it's an MCQ. Of course I'll be able to do it on time, but in a pressure situation you might falter, so it is better that you practice within the time limit. Now after you've given the paper, you've marked ठीक है ये सही है गलत ये सही, I have XYZ marks. XYZ marks don't really matter that much because those are not going to be counted anywhere. What you have to look at is I did 10 मैंने गलत, 10 तो कम है, I did 20 wrong. So if I did 20 and I left 5. I left 5 because 5 I had factual knowledge missing, मुझे पता नहीं था, so I left them. 20 मैंने गलत करे, so out of these 20, how many of these 20 were silly mistakes? I didn't read the question correctly, incorrect था, correct पढ़ लिया, outside था, inside पढ़ लिया, कुछ ऐसा कर दिया. So these are silly mistakes. They have to be avoided at all costs. Afford नहीं कर सकते ऐसे silly mistakes करना. So this is one basket. Second basket is भूल गए, कुछ और याद आ गया तो गलत कर दिया. तो this is where you didn't know. That's a factual gap that can be fixed. कि दोबारा पढ़ लेंगे, I will revise this again, I will practice this again, I will write it out, I'll have my friend to quiz me, I'll use flashcard, I'll use a whiteboard, whatever you can do, I will learn it. So that's fine. There's a third basket in which you mark this question, you mark this option because you thought it is correct, 90% sure, 80% sure, but it wasn't. So this is also, you can't afford to do that. If you know, then it's great. If you don't know, then you can leave them. But these will get you negative marks. So just make 3 baskets, analyze कि किस में तुम क्या गलती कर रहे हो, किस सब्जेक्ट में तुमको आता है, किस सब्जेक्ट में तुम्हारे तुक्के नहीं लगते, तो वो सब भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है बिकॉज उस हिसाब से you will attempt in your final exam. So if you know that मेरे तुक्के medieval में नहीं लगते, I just don't have that solid understanding, don't put तुक्के in medieval. So that way, so that is how you should analyze. Don't just analyze कि these many are correct, these many are incorrect, so that's okay. Just go a level deeper into that. Analyzing PYQs. Again, PYQs, as I always say, PYQs are an insight into how UPSC actually sets its paper. No material, no book, no nothing, nobody can tell you कि UPSC क्या चाहता है. Only PYQs can tell you that what UPSC wants. And also, the thing is that the way UPSC sets its paper, if you pick up last 4 year, 5 years paper, काफ़ी themes repeat होती हैं. For example, environment, conservation, climate type की जो international bodies होती हैं, that is a very recurrent topic. So you need to pick up those themes. You need to classify कि इसमें से ये काफ़ी पूछा जाता है, इसमें से ये काफ़ी पूछा जाता है, and focus on that, especially during the last few days. Also, a lot of time what happens is that if there is one question and उसके कुछ options बनाते हैं UPSC, some are correct, some are incorrect. The next year they'll frame a question out of one of the words that have already appeared in one of the wrong options, let's say, or some right option somewhere fringe. So it is very important that you don't neglect. You don't be like, ठीक है, this has already been asked, so it won't be asked again. So that is why analysis of PYQs become very crucial. Apart from that, analyzing PYQs will also help you to understand what good smart work is. Good smart work is not just guessing कि बस random guess कर दिया, कि options में से कुछ connect हो रहा है इस तरह से, something is correct, something is not correct, something connects to some other topic I read somewhere else. So how well can you do smart work? That you can judge through PYQs very accurately because ऐसे ही questions आने वाले हैं. And this will help you decide whether I want to take a 50% or 60% chance while attempting this question. So all of the 3 things that I mentioned, these can be solved through analyzing PYQs. So very important. You can just take some source which has PYQs solved with some explanation of them. कि सिर्फ ये नहीं देखना है कि सही है या गलत है. Why is it correct? Why is it? What was the logic behind it? How could I did some smart work even if I had some factual gap and still attempted this question in a correct manner? So PYQs very important. Now we can talk about don'ts. We've talked a lot about what all you have to do. It's very simple. All the do's that we talked about, they make sense. They're very simple, and if you put in a system that incorporates all of the do's, it will become very natural to you, and it will become very easy for you to just tick, this I want to do, this I don't want to do, this I'll spend 2 minutes on, 3 minutes on, etc. It won't feel very alien. Now we come to the don'ts. So of course there are don'ts, Don't change your sources. Again, this point is so important that it is come in the don'ts as well. That don't change your sources at the end, because it will become haphazard, khichdi ho jayega. We don't want to do that. In the end, we want to remain calm, we want to remain confident, and we want to have confidence in our own sources, in our own notes, ki abhi tak jo bhi whatever we've done, it made sense, that is why we did it. So please don't change your sources. What you can do is just revise using some compilation, or revise using some, for example, I talked about the yearly compilation of current affairs. So use that. You can use some content addition, but very brief, very focused, and very attuned to the exam's demand. So that is the first don't. Again, not to take too many sources for one topic or one subject. If you're, say for example, if you want to study about biotechnology, because they ask you science and tech questions mein, take one source for biotechnology, read that, take a good source, read that, attempt attempts, analyze tests, add from there, you add from current affairs or your newspaper, and that should suffice. That is how much effort you can put in for some positive gain. Otherwise, you'll be putting in a lot of effort and not getting the same returns. So don't, again, not too many sources for one topic, very important. Not too much time on one topic and subject, especially after you have prioritized your subject. So if you feel that polity and economy is where you do well and where it is easier for you to score marks, spend some more time on that. Spend lesser time on things that you think don't work too well for you. For example, art and culture doesn't work very well for me, so I just use one source for it, and that's it. And I kept revising it ki if there is a low-hanging fruit question from ancient art and culture, etc., then I don't want to miss it. But if there is some high-level question, तो वो वैसे भी बहुत लोगों से नहीं हो पाएगा, तो उसके पीछे ज़्यादा हेडेक लेने का ज़रूरत नहीं है. So not too much time on one topic and one subject. In this, I would also like to add that please go through the syllabus of prelims and make sure that you are doing only prelims syllabus here, not main syllabus. So for example, don't spend time on world history too much for prelims, because prelims के syllabus में world history उतना matter नहीं करता है. Current affairs centric world history पढ़ सकते हैं, but again syllabus very important. According to that, spend time. Ignoring current affairs, please do not ignore current affairs. Why I am saying this is because for the examiner who is setting the UPSC paper, current affairs is the input that he or she is taking in. They are not reading any material, they are not doing UPSC prep for themselves. So whatever they think should be in the paper is what they are absorbing through current affairs, what is going on, what is in the newspapers. So you absolutely cannot afford to miss current affairs. For that, again, you can use a compilation, you can use a test series for that compilation, you can keep giving quizzes. Whatever monthly you have to keep revising that. I revised my current affairs 3 times. If that works for you, that would be great, but at least twice. It would be good if you can do it 3-4 times. That is how things stick. Otherwise, if you just read it once, it won't stick. So can't ignore current affairs at all. Then the next don't is not having a revision plan. The most important reason why this is a don't is because if you don't have a revision plan and there's only 1 month left or 1.5 months left, you'll start panicking that I've read so much, but actually मुझे कुछ आता नहीं है. So you start feeling that I don't really know anything. And that doubt will creep in because syllabus is vast, it's a difficult exam. So having a revision plan will give you the confidence that you need, that I have a plan, I have divided my days, this, I will do this, these are my strengths, weaknesses, I will give these many tests, I will solve these many CSAT questions, I am aiming for 100+ in all of my mocks. So that will help your mental health, and that will help your confidence, and of course that will help your preparation as well, because you will be revising. Finalize your revision plan, make a calendar, divide your days, choose all the subjects that you have to do, put it in that calendar. Is then I will do this, is then I will do this, 2-3 days after I'll give a test, or what all sources you will use for that, what all tests you will give, the days you need to, and if you need help, if you need a mentor, if you need to talk to a friend, put all of that in a plan. It is always good to have a plan. Don't stick to it too rigidly. Don't feel like if I fail in following that revision plan extremely closely, then I can't do anything. That's not how it works. This is just a guide for you to stay on path. That's it. It's okay if you are 1 or 2 days upar niche, that is fine, but broadly you can follow a plan. Not revising core static subjects at the end. So where this helps again is in questions from modern history or polity or economy, where you know ki ABCD, for example, I know 100%, ye to mujhe aata hai, now I will shift to my current affairs, and you do so much of your current affairs and other things that your strengths, the things that you are very confident of in the beginning, you lose out on them. So we don't want that. So just stick to the core static subject. Ka sabse important part is just like 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the exam. Make sure that you do not miss any low-hanging fruits. That is the essence, because these are subjects that you've studied a lot for mains as well. For prelims, you're anyway studying. So just keep revising them. All the important things, budget, economic survey के important statistics हो गए. Polity में तो लक्ष्मीकांत के जो भी provisions हैं important वो हो गए. Modern history में for example जो भी important newspapers थे, उनके authors थे, movements थे, किसने start किए थे, ये सब भी हमको भूलना नहीं है बिल्कुल भी. So that is core subjects. Not going through PYQs. I talked about the importance of PYQs before also. So and you can also attempt PYQs. ऐसे random PYQs उठा करके attempt भी कर सकते हैं, so that you have some idea of how you are approaching UPSC level questions. Not analyzing mock tests. As I said, it's more important to analyze them than to give them. So if you feel that I don't have time to analyze them, then don't give the full mock test. Just give 15-20 questions and analyze them. That is better than giving 100 questions and not analyzing any of them, because the explanations, the correct answers, where you went wrong, why you went wrong is also very important. The baskets that I described earlier. So analysis, because we are not giving mock tests for marks, we are giving mock tests to understand कि कैसे बेटर किया जा सकता है. तो प्लीज़ मॉक टेस्ट देने से ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है एनालाइज करना. दोनों ही करना है, बैलेंस्ड अप्रोच रखनी है. इफ़ यू कैन गिव 10 एंड एनालाइज ओनली 10, दैट इज़ फाइन. इफ़ यू कैन गिव 20, दैट इज़ गुड. बट इफ़ 10 भी आप करके एनालाइज कर ले रहे हो, दैट इज़ बेटर. सो प्लीज़ डू एनालाइज दैम. Join a good test series and analyze your tests. Making notes but not revising them is very counterproductive, because आप पढ़ रहे हो, आप इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हो, you're making notes and then you're just kept in the corner. So it's your own मेहनत, don't disregard it. Please revise your notes. Make your notes in such a way that you want to revise them. Make neat, tidy notes, have margins, underline keywords, use different colored ink if you want. But make notes which you would want to revise and that you end up revising as well. Whatever additional content you have to add it to your purane wale notes only, otherwise you will not refer to the new information ever. Don't make them untidy. Leave blank pages in between whenever you are writing notes. So all of that, that's just good practices for note making. Well, please do revise them. Not having a time management strategy, as I was talking about, that it feels like it's an MCQ, so it would be easier to be within the time limit, but in the final examination, when you're actually looking at a question and you're just slightly there कि इसका यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा ये तो पढ़ा था but exact नहीं याद आ रहा है. So you will spend 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes trying to figure it out, and sometimes you will figure it out. So you need that buffer. You need that buffer to think on those questions. So some questions you will need to know instantaneously that ये तो आता है मुझे. Some questions you need to know that I will leave, ये मुझे नहीं आता है. And some questions I will sit and think a little bit, शायद मैं ठीक कर दूँ. So it is very important to have a time management strategy. What you can do over here is decide how many iterations I want to do. A lot of people do 3, you can do 2 or 4, as many as you want, as many as you can, whatever works for you in the mocks. When you do an iteration, you just mark all the answers that you know 100%. पहले iteration में, for example, your first iteration you did, you knew 30-40 questions with full faith कि इतना तो मेरे को आता है. 30-40 you've marked. Fill in the OMR for these short questions. You will not get time to fill your OMR later on. If you don't fill the OMR, then it is of no use. Please fill your OMR. What I do is that I finish one question paper ka page and I fill uska OMR and then I move on. Do not leave OMR for the end. That can be very disastrous. And then move on to the second iteration. कि अब जो questions थे जो थोड़े इधर उधर थे, give them some time. Maybe you will figure out 50% of them. Mark them in the OMR. Then if you have time, do a third iteration on all the questions that you have left. For example, let us say you have left 10 questions. Go through those 10 questions कि मैं उसमें से 2-3 भी लगा दूँ, थोड़ा दिमाग लगा करके. नहीं भी लगाए तो it's fine, but you can do a third iteration that way. And that way you will give each question the time it deserves. Otherwise, अगर आप एक ही iteration में कर लेंगे तो maybe you get stuck on one question and you waste your time, or maybe you do it so quickly that you make silly mistakes. So we don't want that. So just figure out what number of iterations work for you. At least 2 is what I recommend. Not having a test attempt strategy, that I've already told you, the iteration strategy. What you can also do is, for example, you have some set A, B, C, D, and your question paper starts with, let us say, environment, and you're not very good at environment. You don't have to start your test from the beginning, start it from the end. Start it from the middle, but please remember that कुछ छूट ना जाए. But जो भी आपको subject strong है, अगर आप उससे start करेंगे, in my experience, you will get better marks. Because आपने, for example, let us say you start with the science and tech because you're strong in science and tech. There were 10 questions from science and tech, and you could mark, let's say, 7 of them correctly. That will give you a very good confidence boost. So you will, when you move on to the next section, even if you don't know some questions, you will be like, ठीक है, manage कर लेंगे, हो सकता है, अभी मैंने इतने तो कर ही दिए हैं. In contrast, you start with some topic you're not confident with, and you can't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, and it starts weighing down on you. So that will leave you in a bit of an uncomfortable situation. So we don't want that. So when you're iterating, what you can also do is not solve from 1 to 100. Start from the topic that you are most confident in, and then just come back. So that is also a strategy which can work. Again, you can come up with more strategies. All you have to do is test them out with PYQs and mocks to figure out what works best for you. And this is the last one, and this is, I feel, extremely important and काफी बार neglect हो जाता है. But your prelim score depends on what you do on that day, and what you do on that day depends on how present you are, how much pressure you've put on yourself, or how much attention you are giving to the question paper, if you're feeling well or not, if you were feeling well the day before, if you've slept well. So all that comes if you focus on your health, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. This is an exam. It is a big exam, but at the end of the day, it's an exam. So we are not here to spoil all of our health for one exam, and it is not going to help our performance either. So it is very important that you focus on your mental health at this time. That is why having a plan works. Having a peer group also works. Having a support base of your family, colleagues, anybody. You should talk to them. You should talk about how you're doing, what you're doing, how many marks you're getting, you're not feeling well about some subject, or your personal life, whatever it is. mental and emotional support will always help you, and physical health as well. You need to be able to sit in that chair for quite some time, especially for mains but also for prelims. You need to be okay sitting in that chair. You don't want to have back pain, you don't want to have your hands paining, you don't want to fall ill, you don't want to get a headache. So it's a pressure situation. Your body needs to be in a good condition to handle that. So please take care of yourself, mental health, emotional health, physical health. Don't be scared. It's an examination which can be cracked if the right amount of work is being done, but in a smart way. So it is not about how many hours you've put in or what you've done till now. If you streamline your process today, if you start your plan today, and you know in yourself that you can do it, then you can. So these were some do's and don'ts for prelims this year. We hope they helped you, and we hope all of you may make it through this year. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir.